to all of you and uh, welcome to the second edition of the CBG Dialogue being organized by the Indian Federation of Green Energy CBG Producers Forum. In the very first, the episode that we had, we were focusing more on the kind of challenges that we have wanting to set up a CBG plant. A lot of broad issues were covered in that, and it was felt that many of the issues that we covered in the very first event needs to be elaborated on. When it comes to the today's topic of feedstock, the challenges and the possible solutions for the challenges that we have, etc. Broadly it was discussed in the last session also, but more from the perspective of as looking at feedstock as one of the checklists before you really take a decision to set up a particular plant. So that was more from the point of view of challenges that we have about the availability of the feedstock, setting up a plant closer to where the feedstock is available, and some of the kind of challenges that we are going to face from extraneous sources while trying to organize the feedstock supply chain. And some technical issues were covered. I think, today the whole idea is to look at the various feedstock and various the kind of challenges that we have, and also looking at possible solutions towards it. And we have a very eminent panel of speakers today. Before I leave the floor for the speakers, I would like to just make some opening remarks. As we all know that, when we are talking about compressed biogas or biomethane, whatever we call it, there are multiple different types of feedstocks that we really use here in India. So one of the major feedstock that we are looking at, being an agrarian society, we generate humongous quantities of agricultural residues, which is available in plenty. I don't even want to get into what type of agricultural residues, what numbers. We have enough data has already been shared. We have plenty of the agricultural residues available, but availability is highly seasonal. So if you had to really set up a plant, so first thing that we'll have to look at is the kind of residue that is available suitable for biomethanation, and then really looking at how are we going to aggregate the biomass, how are we going to transport it, how are we going to storage it, because the whole aggregation may have to be done in a window of about 30 to 45 days, but you may have to carry that inventory for the rest of the year to run the plant. So we have quite a few challenges, and there will be some reflection on the kind of challenges and how to manage all that, and also ensuring the quality of the feedstock and its consistency. That is another issue that we have to really look into. And apart from that, really looking at whatever the feedstock that we ultimately want to process it in our digester, ensuring how are we going to get the maximum recovery of gas from that. So that again, it comes into not necessarily a feedstock issue, but it is a process related issue. But this is also something that is very important to get maximum out of the feedstock that we have been talking about. And then again, one of the important byproduct, which is the biodigest state, and the quality of the biodigest state. Again, it depends on the quality of the feedstock that we are going to be getting it, and how we are going to pre-treat it to ensure that the biodigest state is of certain quality and it's of certain use as far as from the point of view of farmers. So there are various such aspects that one needs to cover when it comes to agricultural residues. Similarly, when we talk about municipal solid waste, with the kind of urbanization that has happened in India, municipal solid waste is not really an issue. We have humongous quantities of municipal solid waste that is available, and all through the year. It is not like agricultural residues where you have to worry about, aggregating it in a short window of time. This can be made available to the processing industry on a daily basis. But the biggest challenge here is the segregating the organic component of the MSW that we have. When we talk about MSW, it has organic component, inorganic component. You have the construction debris, various types of plastics. I mean, if you really look at the composition of the feedstock that you can get from municipal solid waste, it is mind-boggling. And one of the challenges that we will also have is that the kind of consistency in the composition of the organic feedstock that we can get. This is when we are only talking about organic food waste, there itself the composition could vary from day-to-day basis. But when you are talking about the organic, the component of the MSW, then it could significantly vary on a daily basis. How does it really affect the performance of our digester is something that we have to really look into. And another aspect is whether it is agri residue or MSW, it comes with a lot of different types of impurities. And the problem is quite compounded in case of MSW because it could, all the kind of segregation that you do, there could be some amount of inorganic material, especially the plastics, which could come, which could, choke your digesters, as well as, it could get into your biodigestate, which is not a very nice thing to make sure that, not a nice thing to see that some of those, minute plastic particles get into the soil through the biodigestate. So, and when we talk about the MSW, the challenges seem to be much bigger than agri residue. At least in case of agri residues, in the last year or so, a lot of policy interventions have been done. The like Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. We also have Ministry of Fertilizers, who all have put their heads together, and some kind of a policy ecosystem is evolving. But when it comes to the policy ecosystem, as far as the MSW is concerned, there is no clear-cut policy. And this is something that I was saying in Delhi just 2 days ago when MNRE was organizing a workshop to draw a roadmap for the CBG sector. So when it comes to MSW, we don't have coordination between the central government, state government, and then you have the municipal corporation level. Each one, they think what they are trying to do is the best. So there has to be some kind of a, policy guideline which binds all of them together, and some kind of a sense of purpose and sense of achieving certain objective is achieved through those kind of guidelines. So there are different challenges. And when it comes to animal dung and poultry, here again, unless it is an organized sector, aggregation is a big challenge. And some of these feedstocks, the gas recovery could be quite low. When you say that the quality of manure could be slightly better than agri residue or municipal solid waste. And it may be pretty easy to set up a plant closer to a goshala, but if you are setting it up in a remote area and you are to collect the animal dung over a large area, then that may not be viable at all. So we need to consider all those factors. And when it comes to press mud, this may be a kind of feedstock where a lot of logistics can be avoided. That because it comes from an organized sector, and even in case of press mud, the challenge would be availability for the entire year. It could be available for 6 to 7 months in a year, but if you had to run the plant for the whole year, then you got to store it. Then you also have the challenges of the degradation of the feedstock. This could be a challenge even in case of agricultural residue. This is something that we have to keep in mind. So how do we ensure that the biomass or the press mud that we store is not degraded, which would only result in reduced gas production? So how do we avoid that? Apart from this, we also have the sewage water that you get in almost every city. And then again, making it available for an industry is also a big challenge. And how do we organize that? Here again, the challenge is very different than the rest of the, feedstock that we talked about. And there have been a lot of discussion about different types of agricultural crops too, like, talking about using Napier grass, wheat sorghum, pearl millet, which can be, feedstock can be generated by involving the farming community and, ensuring that there is a constant supply of these, the crops, energy crops available for our CBG production. I mean, the challenges again is that, all the crops that we are talking about, it has to be suitable for a particular geoclimatic zone. And, the productivity of the same crop cannot be assured in different geoclimatic zones. So that adaptability is something that we have to be really looking at. And you got to make sure that, you do have work with high yielding varieties in these. And another important aspect is the biggest challenge with all these energy crops is that, the companies themselves cannot really be raising it on, in a captive plantation. So here, the important aspect is that, you have to involve the farming community to grow the feedstock that is really required for processing in the plant. So in which case, what kind of a value proposition that you would make to the farmer? How do you really ensure his participation, not just for one crop or for 1 year, but through the life of your plant, he has to be associated with that, with you. So in which case, what is the kind of value proposition that you would like to make to the farming community who's going to assure that, quality and constant supply of the feedstock that is required for your plant. So here again, there are challenges of, working with the farmers to make sure that the cost of harvesting, cost of transportation is minimized, and what kind of a role as a processing unit would play in harvesting and transporting the feedstock that is required. There are different aspects to it. So I would expect that the expert team that we have Dr. Navindu Gupta, who has been an agricultural scientist with ICAR, and he's been associated with us, and he has been helping and guiding our program for quite a few months now. And then we have Kevin, who has been an entrepreneur himself, as an expert on the aggregating the municipal solid waste and processing it. And then we also have Atulji, and he himself has been managing a big plant in Namakkal, and then he's also the COO of IOCL Adani group. So all the people that we have today on the panel, and we also have Shashi Hegde, who has done tremendous amount of R&D with Napier grass, and he himself has a lot of experience dealing with the processing of different types of agri crops and things like that. So I don't want to stand in between the participants here and the panelists today. So I would request the next speaker, Dr. Navindu Gupta, to start his presentation. And I would request Shashi and Nidhi to ensure that we maintain the time, as well as this has to be in a, after presentation, there has to be some dialogue. People will have questions and they may want to seek some answers. So please ensure that you allow some discussions as we move forward. Thank you very much.
Sir, should I start?
Yes, yes.
The most respected Ramakrishna ji, my co-panelist, and my new assignment with the SPS Bio-Chem and its team and the other, wonderful audience. I'm again, after just 2 days, we had one talk on 21st by IFGE itself with a different angle on the aggregations. Sir, this is I'll just repeat 2-3 slides, what I did in the last presentation. Number one, because that I want to just give you an highlight of what our agriculture is and how much biomass we get from it and what we are doing it presently and what are the potential of that biomass what we have. So the country is presently producing in the food grain, say about 330 billion tons, which is, and we are, second largest producer of some of the crops like rice, wheat, sugarcane, groundnut, vegetables, fruit, and cotton in the world. And nonetheless, the horticulture production is also to the tune of 320 million tons. And I'm told that this year it will surpass the food grain production. By these two, the field crop and horticulture crops, we get a biomass production to the tune of 450 to 500 million tons. And presently, we are only using 32% of all in our primary energy use. And if we consider, 50% for the fodder, still, there is a gap of 18%, which we can bring into the bioenergy or CBG plantation. Beside this, we have about 535 million heads of livestock. And from these, we get 3 million tons of waste annually from livestock. And if all of this is, managed, we have a potential to generate about 61,000 million cubic meter of the gas. I'm sorry, it's not moving. Yes. Like other developing countries, India is also facing problem in food, fuel, and fertilizers, but not to that extent what the other countries are facing. We are approaching towards the self-sufficiency. And now we are thinking of the nutritional security because we have achieved the food security. And still the rural population in most of these states, in the rural areas, we are still dependent on wood for our day-to-day and animal waste and agriculture residue. We are burning it at the kitchen level. Now, as we all know that the world energy demand is expected to increase by 50% by 2030 because of the lifestyle of the population of the country and urbanization. There are two sources of energy we have. One is renewable and non-renewable. Non-renewable has its limitation. Renewable sources of energy, besides solar, wind, animal, and human waste, we have biomass. And this biomass, we can always use and tap its energy. Major sources of biomass, what I can see is these 7 categories. One is the agriculture crop residues. This includes the horticulture. This also includes the wet waste, which is, from the agro-based processing industry. Like, for example, sugar industry, we get the molasses, we get the press mud, we get the PME, post, methanation effluent, and the biomass feedstocks. Algal is a new area which is coming up. And it has a good potential because of the nitrogen content in it. And the sorted municipal waste, I mean to say the organic biodegradable waste from the mixed waste. and then wood processing residues and forestry residues. The challenging for sustainable development is always, energy. And now there is a shift to the green energy, and this is quite vulnerable because the alternative fuels have got a market value and easy access to everyone. So CNG is now available in town, and we have a modified engines in most of the vehicles, public transportations. And since our commitment is that we will be replacing our demand of 50% by renewables by 2030. So we are only 6 years to go further, and therefore we have to move forward in a war-footing manner. This is just, I want to show that the biogas is nonetheless the 1 normal cubic meter of biogas having 60% of methane has an energy content of 6.02 kilowatt hour. If it is purified to 97%, then it will be somewhere near to the 1 liter of diesel. So that's the energy content what we have in our biogas. And now there is a success story for CBG. None of the plants have a problem with the CBG. They have a problem of offtake of FOM and LFOM. And unless all these 3 products has a good market, we cannot say that our CBG plant is successful, and we may tap or we can have the payback period of our capex or opex. Now, what is biomass? I like these 2 definitions because one covers the living or dead biological organisms, other covers the plant. Now, plant, during photosynthetic synthetic process, it converts carbon dioxide and water using the solar energy. So there is a tapped energy which is obtained from the solar. And this energy is further utilized to generate this. Now, we have a biomass materials, which I have already explained. There is a typical stoichiometric formula of biomass, which I like, that carbon 1, and if it is 1, then hydrogen is 1.4 times of it, and oxygen is 0.6 of it. Now, all these 3 parameters are required for any bond enthalpy, and the difference in the bond enthalpy of carbon dioxide and water with the methane and oxygen, we get the difference of the energy in this. Now, by and large, all biomass broader characteristics is carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin component. Now, the first 3 components are for the energy purpose. Direct fuel value is there. Cellulose and hemicellulose, these 2 components are vital for anaerobic fermentation process to produce methane. Now, these are the various, crop residues, human waste, kitchen waste, forest residues, animal shed waste available with us in India, and we can tap this. For an interest to make you, I take you the journey of biogas in India from 1974 to 2023. The technological changes are that we were only using cattle dung in almost all plants at the farmer's level, be it to the 500 cubic meter or more than that. Now, there is a improvisation in the design. There is a enrichment of biogas from 55 to 60% to 97% of CBG. Scaled up is also there. Then the application of biogas from household to now CNG for automotive application and electricity generation. Then the application of bioslurry is still, with the farmers and individual farmers to district and national agriculture policy for using FOM and LFM. Now, these are the some of the pictures which I'm showing from my research institute. And this is the scenario which everybody knows during November to December, January in Delhi, burning of the rice straw. And this is the challenge, which has been reported in the current science, that there is a, how much CO is produced, how much particulate matter is produced. So at what cost of the health, we are inhaling the gas. Now, broadly, there are three principal conversion pathways. One is the biochemical conversion, the other is thermochemical conversion, and third is physicochemical conversion. Now, from first conversion is broadly two, anaerobic and composting through anaerobic process or through aerobic process by, Vendro or, Kachapaka plant and so on. Thermochemical conversion is a combustion process or pyrolysis process in order to produce producer gas. One example, we can also produce water gas, CO plus H2. And by physicochemical conversions, we can, extract polyaromatic hydrocarbon, esters, and alkenes. And there are industries which are coming up for the esters, and these esters are used as a energy and the food supplement of proteins and the starch. Basically, bioenergy systems are of three components: biofuels, biopower, bioproducts. Biofuels includes bioethanol, biodiesel, biogas, CBG, and liquid biogas. Now, this is the another area which a good amount of research is going on. Is it possible to liquefy a biogas? Theoretically, by critical temperature, critical pressure, if you look into this, and the viability of the plant when it will be taken in the large scale. The product, what we get, should be economically viable. And then biohydrogen, a long time ago, it has been done, research is done, but still, it is under pipeline. Biopower is basically heat and electricity in the gasifier, and small gasifiers can be used for small scale industries, for their boiler purpose, for their steam purpose, for the electricity generation to move the turbine, and so on. Similarly, the bioproducts like bioplastics, biodegradable plastics can be extracted, can be esterified, like diesel. And producer gas, water gas, starch, proteins, etc. This is all have been the research and the plants are going on. Now, I'm interested to bring before you the various issues and constraints in offtake of FOM and LFM. Now, we have to seriously work on this. The awareness in the sense, the farmers' awareness. The farmers should be made that the product which you are using is the carbon rich, and minimum percentage of carbon is 14. Longer is better, and we should not look into the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium strictly, because NPK content is always low in the organic products. So we should start thinking from the carbon narrative rather than NPK or nitrogen narrative. So what is the present perception of the farmers? So we have to see the psychology of the farmers and how much has he information about it, or the availability to him. Suppose a CBG plant is 50 kilometers away from his point of or his field, so there's no point
Navindu sir,
economically done it.
As a moderator,
Sorry,
I'm little time constrained, so
I'll be fast.
Yes.
Sorry. So cost, quality, application dose, we have to really work on this, and we have to give a complete package to the farmers that this. This is, I'm just showing you for your interest, the microbial population in the cow dung. Now, cow dung, contains billions of the, microorganisms, endospores, or bacillus, or this. It is inherent characteristics that it contains a lot of anaerobes, which is enough to, digest the material, substrate. And during this process, we get the biogas and other things. So this is just a lab wherein we have isolated from a cattle dung these many species. Now, this is something, which is very important to develop an inoculum for pre-treatment purpose. Some of the biomass, which are difficult, where you have a lot of lignin content in it, then this inoculum could be, based on the fungal strain or the bacterial strain, these can be easy to make. So country has a good potential, CBG potential. I just highlight that various, material like press mud, distillery effluent, poultry litter, mixed food waste from the APMC market, starch effluent, and Napier grass, cattle dung has got a CBG potential in kg per ton of the biomass. And in the cattle dung, it is 20, though it is 20, but it is very important to be used. Without it, from where, initial anaerobes population will be this. It is just a one case study wherein how much we can use in this. So that's all I wanted to present here. And I thank you one and all for a patience hearing. Over to the chairman.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I request Kevin, sir, to start with a brief introduction to him and start away with the topic on the harnessing CBG production potential from the MSW.
Can I stop the show?
Yes.
I'm just sharing my screen now. Is that coming up?
We are waiting.
Give me a second.
Nidhi and Rohit, I think you will have to enable Kevin to share the screen.
Please, yeah.
I already make him co-host.
Right, I'm only getting the whiteboard though, not the screen.
Kevin, it is coming up, but it is showing as whiteboard. Probably you have to select the window.
Yeah, that's all the options I'm given though. When I'm asking to share the screen, it's only giving me the white. Let me just see whether that works now. Is that coming up?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to take a few minutes now to share with you our experiences with using MSW as a feedstock. As YB referenced earlier, it has its challenges, but they can be overcome. And I think there are solutions to this. But first of all, I wanted to put it in some kind of context. The responsibility for the collection, transportation and processing of MSW across India lies with municipal authorities and local authorities. So therefore, one can't do much in terms of accessing that municipal solid waste without dealing with the municipal authorities. And to underline again something that YB said earlier, whilst there's no policies directly aimed at how local authorities should handle municipal solid waste in the context of CBG, what the government did back in 2016 was issue a whole policy framework for how solid waste management should be done across local authorities in 2016. And that's quite an extensive actually well-written, well-conceived set of policies and legislation. The challenge is its degree of implementation. But there are two important, three important areas within that I think it's important to understand as we look at how one uses MSW to produce CBG. The first is that those rules actually mandate local authorities to implement the separation of waste at source into three broad categories: wet, biodegradable, dry, plastic, paper, metal, and domestic hazardous wastes. And that they should hand those segregated waste to rag pickers or waste collectors or local bodies. It also said that it was incumbent upon the local authority, they could, if they wished, charge a user fee for the collection and transport of separated waste, and indeed introduce fines for non-compliance. And another very important aspect of that legislation was it defined a bulk waste generator. And it defined that as anyone having a waste generation exceeding 100 kilograms per day. So that really impacts every 4- or 5-star hotel, any restaurant with more than 200 seats, any institution like a university, a temple. It covers, in essence, it could be up to around 40% of the total waste of MSW waste generated in any city is coming from these bulk waste generators. So it defined those, and it made it compulsory that bulk waste generators either have to manage their own biodegradable waste in situ, either have to build either a composting plant or a biomethanization plant to handle that biodegradable waste themselves, i.e. that the municipal authority should not be picking waste up from those bulk waste generators. Or in the case of some cities, certainly like Bangalore, they have to give it to an authorized contractor who can guarantee that that biodegradable waste will go and be sustainably processed. So that was an important development. And the way that impacted the city that we have our plants in, we have plants across 3 states, but in Karnataka, in Bangalore, what it meant was that it created an opportunity for a market development insofar as there are now vendors, waste management companies that focus on picking the waste up from these bulk waste generators. And that's an important consideration, which I'll come along and explain a little later. So if you look at MSW at Feedstock from a couple of areas, we've seen already, as YB mentioned, one of the benefits is that it's available most of the year round. And more importantly, the delivery system, the ecosystem, the logistics system is already in place. Waste is being collected right across India. Municipal authorities have a responsibility for that. They're doing that in various ways. They're either using their own staff and their own vehicles, or they tender out particular areas of a city to a particular vendor who will have the responsibility for the collection, the transport, and ultimately the disposal of that waste. So you don't have, as with agri systems, to put in or develop an entire logistics system to get that agri waste from the farmer's field to the plant. This is already, if you like, available. The key is, how do you intervene in that existing system to get the right quantity and quality of the municipal solid waste diverted to your biogas plant? So it has a relatively low yield on the one hand, relative to other, certainly agri wastes. But the other side of it, which is the reason we got into using municipal solid waste, is the carbon impact. Because 1 ton of food and organic waste that doesn't go to landfill is saving over a half a ton of CO2e. Now that same calculation doesn't really exist for other agri wastes. So if you look at it end to end, we believe that taking the organic fraction municipal solid waste and converting that into energy products and biofertilizer is actually a significant carbon emission saving. And it's a significant carbon reduction solution applicable right across the world. However, that low yield, you need to see in the context that that making the economics of this work, except at very large scale, is challenging. And therefore, there's very little room, in our view, for paying a royalty or a tipping fee, which unfortunately some municipal authorities seem to believe is possible in the recent tenders that are being issued. That's extremely challenging if at the same time, as some of these municipal authorities are doing in the tendering, is asking the vendor to come in and put all the capital in and run the plant for X number of years, and also pay a royalty, which we've just recently seen from some tenders that were issued by the local authorities in the state of in Tamil Nadu. Because of that low yield, it means 97% of what you're doing is actually turning into a slurry rather than the gas. So the other area to think about is that not all organic wastes are suitable for anaerobic digestion. And you know, there are whilst the critical component in being successful in this is to get good degree of separation at source. Ultimately, that's the only way. If you don't get good separation at source, you're ending up putting additional costs, additional technology to separate that waste further down the chain. And it's not possible to get 100% separation, but you need to be north of 80–85% in any plant in order to get an efficiency in the overall processes. But there are a large number of items that can be part of an organic waste stream that aren't really suitable for anaerobic digestion, and I've listed some of them there. I think a critical area is also is garden waste, where municipal authorities do pick up a significant amount of garden waste and other biomass. So to give you an example, we recently commissioned a plant in the town of Siddipet, which is a small town just outside Hyderabad. And that city implemented a program to get all the waste separated at source, which they've actually done quite a good job on. So we've built a CBG plant, which takes around 10 tons of separated organic waste every day. But in addition to that, we get 15 tons of garden waste and biomass. So what we do that is not suitable to go into an anaerobic digester. So what we do is we build windrow compost heaps with that biomass, and when we spray our digestate slurry on that to make our bio-enriched or organic fertilizer. In any event, you will always end up, as you see in that picture, a level of rejects. The key issue is to reduce that amount of rejects by focusing on getting a better quality of separation before it ever comes into the plant. As I say, you'll never get 100%. That's a picture recently taken at one of our plants. That needs to be disposed of. You can't have that hanging around, because I think the other issue with the challenges with managing municipal solid waste, food waste, if you bring it in and you don't crush it immediately and you leave it hanging around, it tends to stink, and then you get a big odor issue. So there are two other areas that you need to focus on. Is you need a good odor management process, one of which is to ensure that you crush all the waste that's coming into the plant and you get it into the pre-digester in a daily basis, that you don't leave the food waste out on a platform, as I say, because it'll attract insects and a smell, and that you need to be conscious of that and have good odor management processes in place around the plant to ensure that that smell doesn't cause you issues externally, and then people start to complain. The other aspect is that food waste itself is quite low in its pH. So you've got to keep a weather eye on what's happening to the pH inside your digester. And if it looks as if it's reducing below an ideal 7 to 8, you need to then think about topping up your pre-digester and digester with things like cow dung, which will then stabilize the pH in order that you don't get a situation in acidic conditions the microbes will stop producing any methane and you'd have to start all over again. So key learning there is, odor management processes for municipal solid waste are key, as well as keeping a weather eye on the pH. Now, the processes involved, our plants today are a relatively smaller scale. The largest plant we've got at the moment is processing about 50 tons of municipal solid waste a day in our plant in Harahali, south of Bangalore. So, but crushing the feedstock is you're bringing it on and tip it onto a platform in our case, and then we put that through screw conveyors to go into grinders and crushers. So crushing it mechanically increases the surface area by reducing the particle size. It optimizes the hydrolysis process, which is the first step in a 4-step anaerobic digestion process. We initially use water to begin with, but then when we're starting to generate slurry, we recycle some of the slurry to be used to give us to put on the fresh feedstock that aids its pulverization. And then we use these biogrinders in order to actually crush the waste into a slurry, which we then put into a pre-digester. Now, the core of it then, from the pre-digester, it goes into the anaerobic digester, which is, if you like, the heart of a biogas plant, where the 4 processes then take place. So our experience is we use above the ground CSTR type digesters. We capture the gas in a membrane that's above the anaerobic digester. But the other thing we learned quite early on when we started on a small scale is that you do need to use agitators. You will get a level of passive stirring by putting fresh feedstock in the anaerobic digester every day, and some thermal convection streams as you produce gas and the gas bubbles up through the slurry that's in the digester. But you do need, active stirring, either mechanical, hydraulic, or pneumatic equipment. And here again, we found that we used local Indian stirrers. We didn't find those particularly cost effective. They're cheap from a unit price point of view, but they're not very good in terms of the total cost of ownership. So, we use agitators, a German agitator from Armatech, which we've got very good results with. But it's critical that that process took place. I mean, when we first built our first digester, we didn't put any stirrers in. It did fine for a year, and then the whole thing just packed up because you're ending up with a substrate that's just choked inside and it's not producing any gas, and you have to start all over again. So those are some of the critical components in terms of the process flow. To give you an example of how we put that all together and how we think we can make a success of taking the MSW waste stream is our plant in Harahali, where we've partnered with a waste management contractor called Hasudra. Now, Hasudra, as you'll see from the video I'm going to show you, what they do is they are already picking up, they are contracted by the BPMP in Karnataka, in Bangalore, to pick up the waste from these bulk waste generators. So that can be IT parks, it can be apartment blocks where there is a good degree of separation. So by working with them, we can be guaranteed a source every day of good quality, separated organic waste. In fact, what we've done is we've gone into a joint venture with Hasudra, where they supply us the feedstock. We've built the plant and we process that and turn it into our 2 climate-friendly products. So we think that's the right way of coming at this and we've built this plant on private land in a business park south of Kanakpurna. And that plant's been up and running now for over a year. So I'm just going to show you a short video now so you can see what a real live plant using MSW looks like.
There are 2 critical elements for a biogas plant to be successful. One is consistent, reliable supply of clean raw material, which is organic waste in this case, and the regular offtake or committed offtake of the products, which is compressed biogas and organic manure. And it is these two things that need to come together to be able to have a successful biogas plant.
By converting waste that would have gone to landfill, we save methane, which is a toxic greenhouse gas. So we would argue that taking waste and converting it into bio-CNG and organic
and carbon masters being able to sell and distribute the end products.
We have created 2 climate-friendly products as the output, which can help commercial LPG consumers to displace fossil fuels and replace it with climate-friendly alternatives like carbon white bio-CNG. The byproduct, which is the organic fertilizer, we bioenrich it and sell it as bioenriched organic manure to help the farmers improve their soil health.
Factors that I envision sustainable impacts and this collaboration with carbon masters and us with other innovations is that we would like to be the one-stop shop solution to municipalities where we can offer end-to-end solution in waste management, where we take care of collection, which is most primary requirement of the service, and handle the back end of processing to ensure right destination and right output is achieved.
For us at Hasubutala, it's very important that we work with waste pickers and create jobs. We knew waste pickers are doing a good job, but the condition in which they are working was not appropriate. So we wanted to skill them up, give them opportunity to do much better work.
And it's terrific that we've been able to partner with Sudra in getting at the first of what will be many projects that we want to do that will stop waste going to landfill, help hoteliers move off of the fossil fuel for cooking, and help Indian farmers put more carbon back in their soil, save carbon emissions.
Through these 2 initiatives, we put a major focus on how India can start going towards net zero goals. And this is just the first of many more plants that we will together bring through sustainable impacts.
So that's one execution which we think is very scalable.
Yeah, Kevin sir, you'll have to run a little quicker now.
Yes, just 2 more slides and then I'm done.
Yes.
So looking to the future, another possible way of coming at this problem of the MSW or the rising to the challenge. One of the big pushes in the solid waste management rule is this idea of decentralized management of waste, to actually, for certainly the wet waste, to manage it at a ward level almost. And indeed, many local authorities are doing that. So they've had some mixed experience building small-scale biogas plants. So we've seen this in Pune, we've seen it in Trichy, we've seen it in Bangalore, where they build these 5-ton plants that process about 5 tons of waste and then generate power from the biogas. But we are looking at a solution where we could leverage that infrastructure or put new infrastructure that would collect the separated waste in transfer centers before it's loaded into a compactor along with the dry waste and then sent off to the landfill, to actually crush the waste there into a slurry, which then could be transported to a larger scale plant where you would get the scale in terms of the gas output to make the whole exercise much more economically viable. So that would be the route here, whereby waste would be still generated as it would be at a ward level. It would be brought to the transfer center. The change would be that you would crush it at the transfer center, put it in either the existing 5-ton plants that existing, or build small containers to be able to do that, and then bring a truck in running on your gas. I think this is a critical component. So you're not putting extra diesel emissions into the atmosphere. And that would collect the waste and bring that to a larger scale plant where you could leverage the fact that you've got no crushing infrastructure in place there. So you've got more space to put more digesters to generate the gas. And therefore you'd be able to get a city level to be able to get the right quantity of waste in the right format to put it in your digesters to create CBG in order to do that. So that's a thing that we're looking at now in a couple of cities in India as a different way of cutting this in order to be able to produce more CBG from the waste that's being currently collected. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Please wait for the question and answer session. If participants have something to ask, we can go ahead. So now I'll be sharing my screen. Hope it is visible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm a founder and director at Hycons, and Hycons is a research-based technology provider for Agri residue-based and Napier grass-based projects. So basically, the topic given to me is feedstock supply chain management. So I will stick to that particular aspect of the topic. Our expectation from the feedstock are very clear. We need this round the year. The CBG plant has to run throughout the year. It should be nearer to the plant. The catchment area cannot be too far, like hundreds of kilometers. And it should be 40% of the CBG cost at the max, or raw material cost itself cannot become 80% of the CBG cost. It should be digestible material. It cannot be wood, bone, or sand kind of thing. It should have a very high energy potential. That means it should have either volatile solids or whatever content in it. It should be convertible to volatile solid. And within the supply chain, there should be minimum number of layers so that we get the raw material at lower cost or lesser layers of margins. And this should not be perishable. It cannot be something like tomatoes or this one, which will just vanish within few days. It should be stored. We should be able to store it. And long term, it should be available. It is available this year and next year it is no more available. That cannot happen. So 5 year, 10 year, or 20 years down the line, that is what we are looking for the raw material for. And it should give some room for all of us as entrepreneurs to focus more on gas production than fighting with the supply chain. So there are a lot of very good mechanisms available as far as Agri-Biomas is concerned, but that is not getting utilized rightly by the people. One is self-help group is there. There is a concept of farmer producer organizations. They can have tens of thousands of members in it, and the government gives a large amount of subsidy for the FPOs to run. And there is, through KVIC, there is a scheme which is Prime Minister Employment Guarantee scheme. So with that, the rural small entrepreneurs can come up and they are supported with the debt. But none of these were there even before the biogas days, but they were not fully utilized by the people. So generally, the entrepreneurs are expected to go for a do-it-yourself model. If at all they want to do it, they will have to build an entrepreneur in their area. Additional step is required for other than press mud, cow dung, and poultry. They all come in a powdered or a small sized plant, particle size. Whereas the agriculture residues, it comes in the long strand way, so it has to be ground to us smaller sizes. That means size reduction step has to come. Typically, it is not very big amount the farmers are earning across India. Our national average is 77,000 rupees per year per acre. So you can look at the chart. The Punjab and Haryana is highest and Bihar is the lowest. So based on the location where we are setting up the plant, we can fairly find out what should be the price which should be given to the Agri-Biomas. So that is one hint we will get. Next we have is in Indian agricultural land. We have 19 lakh square kilometer. Cultivated is less. So we have huge land which is agri land, but which is not cultivated. So that is where the energy crops, all those things can be utilized. Paddy straw, typical the cycle is it has to be cut. The harvesting happens only the rice kernels part, top to 1/3 kind of will be harvested. The rest, the below portion, which is a biomass, that has to be cut from the field. It has to be made to a bale. It has to be stored. And within the plant, we should also have a facility to open up these bales and all the material handling equipment like cranes to uh, open and handle this bale. These are typically 400 to 800 kinds of kgs of weight per piece. So in most of the southern states, the paddy straw is a fodder. So that is the thing. And all this equipment which you are buying for collecting all these raw materials, they will become idle throughout the year. During the season, you will be using. And this is where the major and minor crop area for rice. The dark green is major and light green is the minor paddy area. We have Kharif, Rabi, and Zaid. That is the reason people who are not very familiar. I have also mentioned in the calendar month basis what is the meaning. Then we have wheat. Wheat is the second most produced, and wheat straw is typically a fodder in the northern state, and very less production happens in the southern. And this is not burned during the winter, so it does not get highlighted, even though 100% of it may not be going to the fodder. Whatever gets burned or disposed without proper method, it may be happening in the summer. So there is no smog and kind of thing it is causing. So it is having a lesser attention. Otherwise, this is also a biomass and it has to be available, and everything cannot be, the cows cannot eat whole of the wheat straw which we are producing. And maize, it has to be stored as a powder, or otherwise it is very bulky. And if you are raising the crop, maize crop for the energy crop purpose, the milking crop has to be harvested and utilized. A lot of people started exploring utilizing cotton stack as a raw material, but cotton is typically classified as low quality wood. So I cannot comment much on the output and yield, but a lot of effort is having. In the whole this chain, there is something called C and N ratio. We cannot keep collecting the carbons and forget the nitrogen. So whatever supply chain we are establishing, we are collecting the carbon as well as nitrogen. So that is what is our supply chain design should be. Then coming to the energy crop, we have Napier, water hyacinth, and maize. Napier and water hyacinth are perennial and maize is annual. It can be done on a leased contract hybrid based method. Pricing has to be set based on the current crop, what farmers are following that. It cannot be standardized across the country. This is the water hyacinth from Kerala. There it is a very big challenge, so and huge biomass, and even in large ponds it can be grown. And this is the Napier needs a dedicated harvester. The general maize harvester cannot work here because typically we do a very high density farming. So this is at a Suratgarh where rainfall is 300 mm per year and the temperature is 10.8 to 43.1. So this is the kind of yield we are getting. The first harvest 40 tons. So every per year per acre we can expect 150 tons. So that is the number. And other than that, also there is a lot of people who are concerned about the food challenge, food versus energy, all those things. If you look at the number, we have so many square kilometers of land which is cultivatable and not cultivated. When we replace this 10% of this uncultivated land, and that is not the Himalayas or the Thar Desert or the forest land, this is purely the agricultural lands, we can produce 92,000 tons of CBG just by using the unused land. So I could not believe, so I also request you to double check these numbers, and I did twice. So raw material is as a risk, seeing it as a risk may not be a really risk. It is a phobia, we can say. There is plenty of raw material, either as a biomass or as an energy crop is available. Supply chain typically is cut, bale, transport, pulverize, and store. Pulverizing for the dry material like paddy, it is different, and wet material like green fodder like Napier, it is different. Storage, either it will be bale or it has to be silage. The risks are not many, or whatever is there is serious. So there is a huge risk of fire when you store the agri biomass. So it has to be away from the plant, or it should be in a smaller volumes. And the mold will get formed. Mold is the fungus and the bacteria will start acting if you do not properly store it. It can always go through a shortage. The cropping pattern and things can change, and it will be shortage. And farmers may arm twist for the pricing. So we have to be very what you call no smart in maintaining that. And also a lot of competition will be there. Beside your village, one more project may come, or the pellet manufacturer may be there. So there is a competition aspect. So those are all the risks we are seeing. Opportunities are primarily all these agri biomass is having higher energy potential. The reason is it is not passed through any machine or animal. So it has ready sugar, carbohydrate, protein, and oils. Also, it has cellulose and hemicellulose. So this gives a very high output compared to raw material which has passed through animal or machinery. And there is a good model which is already available. Incentives are available. Only thing we have to educate the rural folks about the SHGs, FPO, PMEGP, all these entrepreneurs who can create, so that in the long run, our responsibilities can be diverted to producing more of the gas than managing this. And the typical farmer, what we see is more responsible and sensitive. So the moment we go for either paddy collection or signing up the Napier contract, they are really interested. And there is whenever there is an alternative available for the farmer, they quickly adopt it. So that is the story I wanted to tell you. Now what I will do, I will call upon Chief Operating Officer of Indian Oil Adani Venture, Shri Atul Karate sir. And I am stopping to just to introduce Atul sir in very few words. He's basically an electrical engineer and done his MBA in oil and gas, and he's a member of CII, FCII, and since his experience as of now is 2 decades in LPG, oil and gas, and in the energy sector. Right now, he's a director and CEO at Indian Oil Adani Venture, and handing over to you.
Thank you, Shashi ji. Thanks for the introduction as well. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes.
you are clear.
Yeah. Okay. So, good afternoon, all of you. Once again, welcome for this webinar. I think our President, Mr. YB Ramakrishna, he has set up a good tone in terms of overview of the scope for the new energies and bioenergies in India. And later on, Dr. Navindu has very categorically talked about the CBG as a potential market. And he also briefly covered the potential for basically having an inclination towards the availability of raw material, thinking it as a line of business, etc. And then,
sorry, can you increase your volume or adjust your microphone?
Yeah, just. Is it a bit better now?
Yeah, it's fine,
Yes.
fine. Thank you.
And then my co-panelist Kevin has talked about MSW as a potential in the country. He also talked about the various challenges and opportunity there. And as an agri feed, Napier and other potential raw material, it has been covered by the other panelist, Shashi ji. And now I'm going to talk very briefly in terms of the combination of agri waste and animal waste. So I will cover it in next 6-7 minutes, and then we will keep some time for Q&A. So just to start with, our venture IOV Biogas it was earlier called as an Indian Oil Tanking IOTL, and we are having this sort of waste to energy plant since 2012. It was the first plant of the country. Our German partner Oil Tanking has set up this plant in Namakkal. When the Satat scheme is launched in 2018, basically we were the first LOI holder, and it's the first plant of the country. And that is how it is basically a design for 10 ton of CBG per day. Apart from CBG, we also have an FOM as a product line. So recently, 1 year back, the stake of oil tanking has been taken over by Adani Ports and SEZ, and it has become the IAV Biogas now. That is, IAV stands for Indian Oil Adani Ventures Limited. So when I have to categorically talk about this biogas plant and processes, so it is mainly a raw methane generation and then purifying it as a segment of biogas plant. Then we have one of the important product of process, that is FOM or organic fertilizer. And this plant is having in terms of technology, basically a raw biogas storage arrangement, then the purification arrangement, the process related activities, the CO2 purifications. And for the purification, we have various technologies, which I will describe in the coming slides. So just to start with, we can go to next slide, Nidhi. Just to start with, basically the typical arrangement in the CBG plant is basically you have a feedstock. In our case, it is 70% of the press mud and 30% of the chicken litter. So whatever you are feeding it, we have an online weighing system. And then there are basically scrapper arrangements. And then we have hooper pumps who takes care of basically your proper chopping, grinding, and mixing of the raw material before it goes to the primary digestion system, including the mixing pump. And when the material goes inside the digester system, basically the process is cyclic process. We have 2 primary digester and 2 secondary. We have gas holders. We have biological scrubber. We have dehumidification arrangement available at part of the process, and basically the activated carbon filter arrangement. And once your product is basically technically ready in terms of richness of the methane in the raw biogas, then you have to basically put it to the purification system. Purification system today, broadly in India, we have 4 type of technologies. One is PSA, and then amine technology. We have membrane technology and water scrubbing technology. So the one which we are using it today at Namakkal is PSA technology. And then once you have purified this gas, basically you put it for the compression system. And Indian Oil being a joint venture company of this company, we have an Indi Green as our own brand, which we are selling it to the Indian Oil retails, ROs. In terms of the digested treatment, we have basically a huge pond available, which is like 18 meter by 20 meter of span with 2 meter depth, which is basically for the storage of the digested material post extraction of the raw biogas from the storage system. And then we have to really dry it. And then there are various mechanisms involved in terms of generating this FOM, doing some value addition to make it more suitable for the agri products. And then we have an auto mode bagging system. We have our own brand in the name of Aishwaryam for the FOM system. Can go to next one. So the plant is typically 17 acres of land. And as I described, it's 2+2 primary and secondary digesters. And basically, it's designed to generate about 25,000 meter cube of raw biogas. And in terms of feedstock, as Ramakrishna ji has covered in his initial speech, basically, if you are a press mud based plant, typically the sugar industry is operational for 6 to 7 months, and for rest of the month, then you have to plan for proper storing of this material. So that is why we need a space for storing of this material. And then we have a drying yard to take care about the FOM generation activities. Yeah, we can move fast. So when I was talking about the purification processes, because purification is one of the very vital part of the CBG plant. So as on date, these are all typical processes available in the country. Certain processes are basically up and running in the country. As we all are aware, there are about 60 plants up and running in the country. Another 300 plants are under the various stage of construction under Satat and various other schemes like Govardhan, etc. So if you have to just talk about one of the plant of one of the technology, for example, water scrubbing. See, the operating cost is low. However, this is my own assessment. I don't want to comment about any supplier, etc. on the sheet. But technically, some challenges here is low CO2 removal efficiency. When we talked about the amine, this is one of the highest CO2 removal, very efficient system. But at the same time, it came with a high cost and high capex, and the high energy intensity as well. At the same time, the consumable cost investment is also very high. Pressure sink, traditionally, it's a low operating cost as compared to other three, as well as the lower capex. However, going by the previous references, the rate of recovery of methane was a big challenge here. Nowadays, certain people have developed VPSA or RPSA, they called it as a recoverable with one of the extra module. There are certain success rate with it. Membrane is highly used in European market, and in India also people have started using this as a technology. However, the capex cost in this case is higher. Can go to next slide, Nidhi. So this is just a brief about the PSA technology. These are a few snaps of our operating facility at Namakkal. As I mentioned, categorically for the maintenance purpose and ensuring the consistency of supplying material to customer, we have divided this 1100 meter cube into two parts. That is 550 m cube into two, so that if one is under maintenance or other type of requirement, then the another branch is running. And we are happy with the performance that it is giving a 97+% of methane purity today. And moisture is almost nil there. We have a compressor unit capacities of 500 meter cube per hour. Three numbers, broadly it's two operational, one standby arrangement. We have our own cascade systems to supply various retail outlet and industrial customers. So that takes care about a 10-10 supply requirement of the from the plant. Next. So when we talked about the Indian typical standard, the requirement is basically you should have a 90+% of methane percent, and the purity level expected as in CBG supplies is 95, etc. And there are other limits given in terms of up to what extent maximum CO2 is permissible, total sulfur up to what extent is permissible, and moisture, etc. However, from our plant, I can say that we are generating more than 96% of methane. We can see it in the next slide. So 97% plus methane we are generating. CO2 is less than 2%, and O2 is 0.3, 0.4, and the sulfur percent is less than 5 ppm. So that is how I think I can say We are having an industrial customers, we are having automobile customers, we are also supplying this gas to the retail of IOCL. And I'm happy to share here that the Kevin's farm, Carbon Master, is one of our registered supplier and vendor. They are operating for us in terms of developing this industrial and commercial market in and around the area we operate in, Namakkal. So these are the few snaps of our own laboratory set up at location. We have an online monitoring system. It is a fully integrated system. Apart from that, we have our own GC at laboratory, and each load and each supplies is getting insured before dispatching it to the market. Next. So, compressor arrangement here, and when we talked about the customers, it is basically retail outlet. We have a few steel, plastic production companies, and few of the big vehicles like the long distance traveler vehicles from Namakkal is converted on CBG, and they are very happy with the performance. It's almost at par with the natural gas. And in case of industrial customers, I can say it is far better than any liquid fuel or LPG. So as we have heard it in the previous discussions, the calorific value is at par. It's a green gas, adding a lot of value to environment, adding a lot of value to the manufacturing process, and at very low emission. And technology is developed up to a large extent, so it's also easy to handle. Next, Nidhi. So another interesting part of discussion here is from the CBG plant, we all have to think that CBG is one stream of basically your marketing. Another important part, if you have to really add value to the whole ecosystem, is fermenting organic manure. So these are the few real snaps from our own FOM facility at Namakkal. We have an slurry pond. The first layer of filtration is done in slurry pond. Then we have pumping arrangement. Through that pumping, the automatic feed is given to a decanter unit. It's a online decanter unit. Then the composting layers will be started. We'll be doing a multiple layers of aerotilling, and a lot of value-added material is getting added during the process of this composting and aerotilling. Once the material is completely as per the standard in terms of moisture, etc., then the bagging will happen automatically. We have an loading arrangement. We have other facilities in terms of checking the basic test of FOM at our site in Namakkal. So this is our brand Aishwaryam. So it is available in 40 kg bag. The industries like Zuari, Tata Group companies, and Madras Fertilizers, even in some case the various other regional companies are part of our supplier list for this fermenting organic manure. We have a plan in place in terms of online launching it on the Amazon soon. So you will be able to have this product in the case of 1 kg and 2 kg in say next 1 or 2 months of time. Next. So these are a few technical specs in terms of what FOM we are producing. So here you can very easily see that moisture level in our case is in between 20 to 25, well within the FCO limit. And then you can see the organic carbon is again in case of a guideline well within limit. The phosphate level, the calcium level, everything is well within the control. Yeah, that's all from my side in terms of this Namakkal facility. However, I must compliment and thank the entire IFGE team for having this workshop for all the new interested parties. And so this webinar is one way of interacting. However, apart from this, if anybody need any support in terms of having a business related discussions, then we are available as a part of the team member of IFGE. So over to you, Shashi ji.
Yeah, Thank you, sir. IFGE has been doing a very good job, and our membership numbers also is going up. And I'm happy to say that IFGE has been taking part in suggesting a lot of policy improvements, which is happening time to time. Now I open up the floor for the questions, and it can be directed to a particular panelist. We have a couple of them on the chart. We'll start with that. The first question is on the OPEX of paddy straw based plant. Based on my calculation, if the cost of paddy straw per ton is, let us say, 1,000 rupees, cost of production is about 30 to 31 rupees per kg of CBG. And this OPEX does not contain any interest part. It is all the raw material, manpower, electricity, transportation, those things. So 30 to 31 rupees if the paddy straw cost is 1,000 rupees per ton. Next question is coming on the water hyacinth yield. Since the water hyacinth, the name was taken by me, I suppose the question is directed to me. Right now, I don't think any credible yield is known for water hyacinth, at least in Indian perspective. Even in Napier case also, we did not know, but we ourselves had to invest in the farming as well as in the R&D. So unless somebody takes up the proper R&D with the cost, it is very difficult to assess the yield at the commercial scale. The next question should go to Navindu sir, which is about the nutrition value of the FOM, if it is coming from paddy and if it is coming from Napier grass.
I have not calculated the difference in the FOM characteristics from paddy straw or from the Napier grass. As far as the nutrient content is considered, it would, in both of these cases, it would be less than 2%. And the market price, I have absolutely no idea.
Right, sir. Thank you. You can talk about the rich, what we call carbon content in the organic fertilizer than it being a NPK.
Yes, I do agree that the FOM or LFOM should be viewed from the carbon point of view, the percentage of carbon in these, rather than, NPK. But from the farmers community or from the planners, they look, Ministry of Agriculture, they look only NPK content because it comes under fertilizer control order.
Yes, sir. From IFG side, we have given some different kind of opinion and suggestion to the ministry to make this fertilizer more in the angle of carbon addition to the soil. So next question is coming on the supply side of feedstock material remains highly unorganized. That is, yes, CBG is a pretty new industry. It is probably 5 years old, and any industry will take some time to mature, and it does not mean that somebody else will come and mature it. We are the producer or the people who are interested in this. They should be maturing and establishing the initial standardization. Atul sir, can I have your comment on the supply chain part? How did you make it standardized or like seamless supply?
Yeah. So my thoughts in terms of people, those are looking this as a potential for business opportunity, you have to really do a very comprehensive study of supply chain management. when I say supply chain management, it is basically availability of raw material well within the max to max of 40-50 kilometer of range. And then you have to also parallelly see that the product which you are generating, that is CBG, has to also get sold well within the range of say 50 to 100 kilometer. So that's the practical equation. And if it is say a supply of press mud, etc., so those are available only 7 months a year. So you have to have a plan in place what you will be doing it for rest 4-5 months. And you have to plan for those agreement with the supplier at least for the 5 years or 10 years of span. Then only you will be able to basically ensure the consistency of a product to your customer, and then the building a credential over a period of time.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. Now, again, next question is coming to Navindu, sir, which is on the FOM, because you are a former ICAR scientist, so you will be the right person to talk about it. The question is, the chicken litter is very high in nitrogen content. So can that be ideal feedstock for nitrogen-rich FOM?
Yes.
Means,
yes, of course.
Yeah.
The chicken litter is a good feedstock, but depending upon the percentage of admixture of this with the other feedstock, the chicken litter, of course, increases the nitrogen content in the FOM, which will be the second large product of the biogas plant. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Next question goes to Kevin. This is about the expected yield from 1 ton of MSW.
Yeah, so our rule of thumb in our practical experience is 1 ton of MSW will give you around 30 kgs of CBG.
Yeah, thank you. I hope it can be a range based on the location and season. So 30 to 40 kg is what I saw in your slide. So
yeah, it'll be between, as I say, it's and just to underline what YSB, I think the other challenge with MSW is there is variability, and that's the consequence of if it's coming from, if it's food waste, which it predominantly is. Indian people eat different foods at different times of the year. So that's going to be all part of the mix that you're going to get coming into the plant. So you're right, it's a variation of somewhere between 30 kgs to 40 kgs per ton of MSW that you're bringing into the plant.
yes, next we have is the land requirement for 5 TPD of Napier grass. It generally depends on the technology you are choosing. Napier can be digested traditionally just by grinding. And in that case, you would need 22 tons of raw material per ton of Napier output. You can go for enzymatic or many other treatments. When you go for destroying the cellulose and hemicellulose part of the plant, then you can expect 65 kg of CBG from 1 ton. So that means you need 15.5 tons instead of 22 tons. So if I go with 15.5 tons per 1 ton, you would need 1 ton needs about 30 to 32 acre of land. So 5 tons will be 150 acre, 150 to 170 you can say. Next, I am not sure whom to ask, so it can be a voluntary. In some of the states where there is a single agri feedstock is available, let us say it, for example, it can be paddy throughout the year. Then on what basis biogas yield is calculated for a mixed feedstock plant? Somebody wants to answer, or shall I give the feedback?
Shashi, let me just give you a brief idea about the mixture of the cattle dung and the other substrate. So
Right.
we should have, you know, what the feedstock is available in that region. And as I see the question that they say that they are from the state where there is no feedstock available and they want to run plant only on the cattle dung or with a mixture of paddy straw. Now, if you take paddy straw, initially the plant has to be run, or what we call technically a priming of a anaerobic digester with the cattle dung, and then with paddy straw you can run the plant even without the, you know, one example is the Verbio plant in Sangrur. So that is all I wanted to see here. So inoculum, for inoculum purpose, the cattle dung is of course necessary.
Yeah. Kevin, there is a clarification on your answer. 30 kg CBG from 1 ton of MSW. The weight
I've
is
sent
taken
the reply
after
directly, but
sorting.
yes, it's sorted. I think the challenge, if you're putting mixed waste into a digester, if you know, and it's too high a level of mixed waste, you'll get no end of problems. I mean, it will start tangling up your agitators. It'll depress the methane yield. So, you know, when I'm quoting 30 to 40 kgs, it's with a high degree of separated waste. As I say, we've had historically very poor results from mixed waste. I mean, it's not suitable for anaerobic digestion. So the key issue with MSW is you've got to get a high level of separated organic waste going into your digesters.
Yeah. The first question was left out, which was about paddy straw based projects in UP and Haryana. There is a Verbio plant which is in Punjab, Haryana region, and also quite a lot of plants. I heard that Thermax is building, probably in one of the next event, either Ashish from Verbio, who is also a member and co-chair of IFGE, and even the Thermax is part of IFGE group. So we will invite them and they will be able to talk about it at much more depth. And Ronakji, this is already answered. 5 TPD would need 150 to 170 acre, or it can be like 200 to 220 acre based on the technology you choose. So there is no precise number. Minimum 150 you can say. If there is no other question, yes, I think Niji ji, do you want me to close this session or? Yeah, thank you for all the participants, so especially Ramakrishna sir, who is our chairman, and Dr. Navindu ji, who was with a very busy schedule and he was in traveling, and Kevin from Carbon Masters, and Shri Atul Karate sir from IOCL Biogas. Thank you. We will catch you up during the next month once again. The purpose of this webinar is basically to go as deeper as possible, because there are many webinars happening 1 hour, 2 hour, but people are not getting a very clear in-depth idea. So IFGE has taken a task to see that we go to a very technical depth as the month combine. Thank you, and keep watching us on YouTube. Even the last session is loaded as of now. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this webinar. And we are further continue with this CBG webinar series. Please continue your participation in our future events. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now I am closing this.